Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I promised I would cover the trial of Mathew Moore. He was charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of felonious assault in the case of his wife, Emily Noble. What made the case blow up, in my opinion, was that the investigation stated that her suicide was staged. Now, as many of you know, he was found not guilty on August 26th of 2020. And before I get started, I want to give my sincerest condolences to the victim family and friends. And I also want to state that all the information found in this video was found on the internet and or social media. So opening statement started on August 17th of 2022, and the state opens by saying that he usually reads the end of the book because it's the most exciting part and he kind of knows where the book is going to go. But that he needs to change that because he finds out that once he starts to read the book, the beginning is usually very different from the end of the book. He goes on to say that this isn't a book, that this is real life, and that the jurors need to pay attention to what was happening during, before, and after Emily went missing. So May 24th, 25th, and 26th. Now, in my last video, I did tell y'all that Emily went to celebrate on the 24th. What I didn't clarify was the 24th was her birthday. He talked about how Emily was outdoorsy and that she liked to go forage, which is basically just going outside and finding edible weeds and plants. He spoke about how Emily was outgoing, that she never met a stranger, and how the 25th of May was a special day for her and her sister, since it was the one day that they were the same age. He talked about her first husband, Mark, who passed away in 2011 after he committed suicide himself. And then he did speak about her parents, how her mother passed away in 2015 and her father passed away in 2016. He spoke about how with all the tragedies that Emily had suffered, that she was brave and that she fought through it. He spoke about how Matt used to live in Vegas, and then Matt moved him and Joey to Westerville, Ohio, where they stayed in Emily's condo. He spoke about her friendships and how, like, some of her friendships became strained. Her yearly outings with her friends, they ceased to exist. Like, they would just talk on the phone. He touched on how after Joy committed suicide in 2019, how Emily seeked therapy. She took time off of work to be with Matt so they could process what was going on. And that after some time at the end of 2019, she went back to work and she was changing her life and she was eating better. He talks about how they took selfies on May 24th and that Emily didn't have any injuries to her face or to her neck. He talks about how Matt didn't call the police until 5:54 p.m. on May 25th after she disappeared. And then he starts to insinuate that the timeline won't make sense and how she left with nothing, no phone, no car, no keys, her ID, she just left. He talks about how she had a dentist appointment scheduled for the next week and how nothing in her employment changed. And then he starts to talk about how Matt's statements jump around and how it seems as if Matt is trying to control the situation. He talks about how Matt wasn't involved in the investigation and how people only saw him once and that people were searching for 4 months, even people that didn't even know Emily. He talked about how she was found and physical exams that was performed and the injuries on her face and neck that happened at the time of her death or around the time of her death. They basically rested the whole case on a doctor's smock, and he stated that it was an incomplete hanging and that the cause of death was manual strangulation. He finishes by saying that Matt continues to try to control the situation and that how he was up texting after they went through his phone, even though he said that he was asleep. All in all, it was not a bombshell opening. It wasn't like they found all of this evidence and that's why he was charged. I'm still actually not sure why he was charged, other than a doctor saying that it wasn't an incomplete hanging. I did get the chance to go through some of the comments, and nobody, literally nobody, was impressed with this opening statement from the state. In my personal opinion, I think the case just got so big that the public wanted answers and they needed to find somebody to charge. But let's move on to the defense. Now, the defense came out swinging. If I ever do a crime in Ohio, not saying that I would, I am going to get this lawyer. Her name is Diane Menashe. So she starts off by just basically saying that the state's theory makes absolutely no sense. He would have had to unalive his wife, move her body, all the while controlling the whole narrative. She goes on to speak about reasonable doubt and how it's the state's job to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed this crime. And she said that because the state literally had no evidence. So here's where she gets them. She continues with how law enforcement searches Mathew and Emily's home, But she brings up that it's not just the Westerville police, it's the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and their sole job is to search for forensics. She talks about how they searched both of the cars, which was a Nissan and a Subaru, how they searched his attic, how they searched the bedroom, the bathroom, the hamper with the clothes that they were wearing the night before, that they even brought in cadaver dogs and they found literally nothing. They didn't find no blood, they didn't find no tissue, they found nothing. And then for a little razzle dazzle, she throws in that they did all these searches with Matt's consent. She talks about how Matt called 911 and that the body cam is going to show that he came outside with a t-shirt and some shorts on. And that he had no physical injuries. He had no scratches, no bruising. It didn't seem like he was in any altercation. She talks about how Matt went to the police station and took off his shirt. And again, they found nothing. She then follows it up with, because the jury was able to go to the location of where Emily's body was found. And she was like, remember how difficult it was for you guys to get in there? It's not an easily accessible place. And for you not to have one scratch makes no sense. But she keeps going and she follows it up with, nobody knows when the time of death was. There is no expert or witness that can tell you when the time of death is. She then goes on to state that she'll be calling an expert who specializes in decaying of corpses, and that even as an expert, the best that this lady can tell us is Emily's body had been decaying there for a while. She then starts to talk about how there is no trace of Emily in May or June while these searches are being conducted in those woods. And again, she brings up that Matt takes them to the exact location of where Emily's body is almost found. And that it's not just humans searching that area, that the cadaver dogs have went out there and they found nothing. She talks about the neighbor whose house is right there, that she smelled nothing like a decaying body, and that the evidence shows there's no connection to Matt at all. She then goes to talk about how the police told Matt from the beginning that he was a suspect, and that on May 25th, the day after, or the day that Emily went missing, they put a GPS in his car, and they got nothing from that. The USB cord that was forensically tested, nothing from that. She goes on to agree that Joey's death did affect Emily the most, that she went to counseling, that she struggled with anxiety and anger prior to death, how she took off of work, just like the state said, just to be there with Matt and to make sure that he was okay because he also was struggling to cope with the loss of Joey as well. She talks about how Emily is found in her walking clothes with a hair tie around her wrist, and she even has on tennis shoes. She then talks about under oath Dr. Smock cannot offer any opinions on a manner or the cause of death that only a medical examiner can. And that the medical examiner's only cause for Emily's death was that it was injuries to her head and to her neck that caused her death. So she closes it out by letting the jury know that as a defense team, they don't have a burden to prove. It's all on the state to prove this case. But she does plan on calling her own expert witnesses. So after she puts on her witnesses, then the jury will have no reason to believe that Matt is guilty. Now, in my opinion, she put on a much better opening than the defense. And even for me personally, she changed my opinion on this case. Tell me what you guys think about the opening statements in the comments below. Now, we know he is not guilty, but I was still watching this trial. It is 8-9 hours every single day, so I am still covering this case. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Be sure to subscribe and share. I'm out. Peace.